Hi everybody, it's Dr. V. Welcome back to my channel. So I did a poll and I asked which reading people wanted to see, and the overwhelming results were for a no communication reading. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So Spirit, please use me as a clear channel for communication. May the messages that come through be in the highest good of all those concerned. I draw a sacred circle around this space, setting my ego to the outside, and call upon my guides, ancestors, higher wisdom, archangels, to be with me, protect this space, protect the messages, the listener. May these messages bring power, encouragement, positivity, and contribute to the elevation of consciousness in humanity. And so it is. So let's just go ahead and see. So this is for those of you that are in a soul-based connection, whatever the label might be, who are in no communication, haven't had any contact with your counterpart. You're kind of wondering, what's up? So let's go ahead and see. This is the New Era Elements Tarot. I just introduced it on my channel earlier this week, and so I'm going to use that again. So the overall reason for the lack of communication. So this is sort of the surface reason. This is sort of what's going on the surface. This isn't the underlying. Interesting. So we've got change, domination, and love. So right now they're in a space where they are literally in a change process. Things are transforming. Things are falling apart. Things are coming together. Falling apart so they can come together in a better, more honest, more authentic way. They are in this battle right now. There's a struggle that's happening for them. Right now they're in this space of struggling between following their heart and following their head. This to me represents, head and heart are kind of at opposition right now, and one is trying to dominate the other. And instead of learning how to integrate those energies, instead of learning how to work together, like head and heart are not enemies. They should not be enemies. They're complementary energies, right? When we work together, listening to our logic and our reason and our intellect, along with listening to our hearts, we're able to make more holistic, beneficial decisions for our lives. When we lead too much with our head, we get out of balance. When we lead too much with our heart, we get out of balance. So right now, they're just in this process of transformation and kind of wrestling between two different options. This can be the really just their mind and thoughts, heart, mind, thoughts are all kind of grappling for control right now. And part of what they need to do is surrender the need to control, surrender the need to feel like they need to dominate one way or the other, and go into a space of openness and flow and receptivity. Part of the surface reason for the lack of communication is what I get from this is that they're really struggling with how to even conceptualize and receive this kind of love. So the thing is that oftentimes people, we have societally created some really wacky belief systems around what love is. I mean, I think that we all are aware of that people think about love as, possession and codependence. A lot of people think codependence is love, and it's absolutely not. So part of this is that they're confused about this. It's like they think what they have internalized as love, or the story that they've created about love, is not what love is. And so they're kind of going toward other situations or other experiences that reaffirm their perspective of love, because they haven't quite understood what divine true love is. They're not grasping it quite yet. So that's part of what's happening with them. So what is the underlying spiritual cause? We have success, the Ace of Fire, and swiftness. So the underlying cause is that there are some things that they need to focus on to create success. They need to focus on healing, transforming this change process that's going on. There are some other things that are demanding their attention right now. Spiritually speaking, this is like spiritually underneath the surface kind of energy. This is not on the surface. This is like there may be some blocks to success. This may be a person who has some blocks in their awareness around, or in their body, their physical body, their spiritual awareness around success. They may doubt their own ability to succeed. They may doubt their worthiness. They may have internalized stories around their worthiness to receive this kind of love that showed up. They may feel like this may be a person who self-sabotages, who does things that contribute to their own failure in life. So they may have opportunities that present themselves, and then they do things that like screw it up, and then they create, put themselves back and sabotage their success. And that may be a spiritual limiting belief, limiting behaviors that they need to work on. Many people have them. This is not a judgment. I have my own behaviors that I'm continuing and continually working on. So this again is not a judgment. It's just simply acknowledging that this may be a person who really is in a space of struggling to create that kind of success. They have had this kind of spark of passion, like this connection for them. If you're really, if you're genuinely a soul-based connection, and I say that because a lot of people, unfortunately, I've experienced this quite a bit, especially with the growth of the channel, don't understand that not every connection that you make is a soul-based connection. Sometimes it's just a regular connection that people want to believe is something other than what it is. And so that's no judgment. There is no right or wrong on this path, but if you're genuinely a soul-based connection, especially a twin flame, if that's the language that you use, then this connection will spark inspiration. It'll make you want to grow. It'll make you transform. It makes you want to be a better person. And so part of what is happening with this is underneath is that they've had this inspiration. They've had this spark come to life in them. And so they have to learn how to create that success from this spark. It may have really caused them to reevaluate their life and their decisions and the path that they've taken thus far. And they may be in a space of really trying to figure out what to do next. They are moving with a swiftness. Spiritually, they're moving with a swiftness that is very interesting to me. It's like this is a card of just moving forward, dynamic, fast forward movement. And so it kind of feels like they had this spiritual spark of this awakening kind of energy. And then it went boom. They just like took off from the starting line. And it may even be discombobulating. It may even be overwhelming for people. If you've ever experienced that energy of swift transformation, you understand that it's intense, right? It's like suddenly your life just seems to have taken on a life of its own, and you're like, whoa, what's happening here? I don't even know what's going on. Suddenly things are shifting and directions are changing, and things that I thought I was going to be doing, I'm not doing, and opportunities that I was working toward are falling away, and I don't know what's going on. So that feels like there's a sense of almost like a disorientation for them spiritually as they're going through this rapid transformation, these rapid changes. So how they would feel to communicate with you, we've got knowledge, oppression, and conflict. They're not ready. They need to get more knowledge. What is that song that kids sing? Go to college to get more knowledge. They need to get some more knowledge. There's some, they need to get more spiritual downloads. They need to grow a little bit more. There's how they would feel to communicate right now. If you were to communicate with them, they would feel conflict and oppression. They still want to engage in these power games. They still want to engage in maintaining the upper hand. So if they ghosted you or they just blocked you out of nowhere and you're kind of like, why would you do that? Like, you told me you loved me. I don't understand. Part of that is about power. Part of that is about, they might have felt like you were in the power position, like you were the one that was kind of in control of things, and they didn't like it. And so they pulled back, they shut down communication, they ghosted, they blocked in a power play. Like, they feel like, because you don't have the ability to communicate with them because they cut you off, that they have the upper hand. And that feels like a positive for them. It's not. I mean, that's kind of, to me, that's immaturity. That's childish games. I have not blocked anybody. That's not my thing. Like, I'll block people if they're like abusive, because I talk about sometimes various things on my channel or on my social media that sometimes people, if I get like nasty comments, I'll just delete them and block them. But to block somebody that you care about because, you know, they held you accountable or whatever is like an immature energy. So I do feel this conflict. They feel this, if they were to communicate, it would probably be, there would be probably be conflict because they're not ready to surrender and admit that maybe they didn't have all the answers and didn't approach this in the best way. So what is holding them back right now? Oh, sorry if you can hear my stomach growling. I didn't eat anything yet. Interesting. All right. So what's holding them back right now is they're broke financially. Like, what is that? I used to go to this church where the pastor would call people, like say people were broke, busted, and disgusted. That is the energy that just came through here, that they're struggling with their wealth. They may be struggling with like an abundance mindset. Again, like I said earlier, the energy that came through about self-sabotage, they may be sabotaging themselves. They may be creating circumstances that are causing them to be more challenged in their wealth and finances, and that's something that is like that they can change. They can shift that energy at any time if they wanted to, but right now they're just in a space where they're not really willing or ready to make those changes. So that's the energy that they're bringing right now, is being, you know, what's holding them back is they just don't feel like they can. Like they don't feel like they can come to you. They're not ready. What do they have to offer you? You know, maybe you're doing really well and things are taking off and you're thriving and you've been really doing your work and things are just awesome for you. You have opportunities that are coming up and things that are just, you know, doors that are opening, and they're over there like, you know, doing the same old thing that they've always done, and they just feel like inadequate. You know, that's part of what I get, is that they feel inadequate. This Temperance card, they need to come into balance. They really need to get their shit together and come into balance and get out of these old, played out ass energies around power and domination and control and dualistic thinking. And they really have to get out of that energy and come into a space of balance where they are able to operate from a spiritual perspective and an earthly perspective, and that they are not, you know, that they're really in that space of inner union. They have to get into that space of knowing who they are, knowing what their gifts are, knowing what they bring to the table, and being willing to take steps toward bringing that energy to the world. This Temperance card is also a twin flame confirmation card. So for people that use the twin flame label, this can be an indication is that maybe what's holding them back right now is that they don't understand the nature of this connection, and it's too confusing, it's too intense, and so they're kind of running from that. The other piece is the Emperor that's showing up. I actually kind of like this card, Abraham Lincoln. But the Emperor is, you know, a solid ruler. This is a divine masculine energy. Although, you guys, really, I think I'm going to get away from the divine masculine and divine feminine, because I was thinking about this the other day. I posted it on my Facebook that I feel like divine masculine and divine feminine are played out, because we're all divine. We're all divine beings having a human experience. It's more of a nature of, or an issue of degree of maturity. And so I'm starting to think about using like the mature masculine or the conscious masculine instead of divine, because like I said, anyway, so this is a mature masculine energy. This is a mature, understands who they are, understands their power, knows that they, how they navigate through the world. They work from a space of consciousness and awareness, as opposed to limiting beliefs and fears and lack and so on and so forth. So part of what's holding them back is so this card, when the Emperor is out of balance, when they're not in that space of temperance, they can become almost tyrannical, like a tyrant energy. They can become like that card that came up earlier, oppression, where they want to have power, where the power becomes addictive and they want to keep moving toward accruing more power. So part of what is happening is that they're not in balance in their Emperor energy. I feel like they either vacillate between the immature masculine energy, which is and this can be for masculine or feminine, you may be a feminine watching, or you may be a masculine watching. We all hold these energies within us. So we all have aspects of that feminine masculine energy, and we need to bring it together. We need to merge that energy into one. That's what inner union is being able to integrate those energies into one being where it's not separate and it's not polarized anymore, but it's actually one energy working together. That's what the divine inner union is all about. So this isn't to say that this is about a masculine person. This is saying that someone's masculine energy. So I hope that that clarifies what I'm talking about. That this immature masculine energy is, in archetypal psychology, Jungian psychology, they call this like the high chair tyrant, somebody who throws a fit when they don't get what they want. So like throwing a fit, like blocking you on social media because you said no. Well, that's kind of an immature energy. On the other hand, the other polarized end of that is that person who goes into like oppressive kind of, maybe I don't want to say abusive, but maybe abusive. If they're abusive, then don't engage at all, because abuse is never okay. But maybe acting out in different ways, asserting power, trying to gain control, things like that. And so that's part of what's holding them back, is I feel like they vacillate between those two extremes, like super immature, childish kind of stuff, and then kind of stopping in the middle and becoming that balanced, more mature, and then going to the other end where they become like tend toward more being more like misusing or abusing their power. So what do they need in order to communicate? Well, they need happiness, exploration, and the daughter of air. Beautiful. So part of what they need is they need to get into their own happiness. They don't even know what it's like to be happy. Honestly, that's what I'm getting, is that there's like so many people get comfortable with discomfort. That song, you can get addicted to a certain kind of sadness. Some people actually get addicted to sadness, feeling like shit, feeling like their life doesn't have any purpose or meaning. Some people actually really get some kind of pleasure out of being or feeling as though their life has no purpose or no meaning. They get addicted to unhappiness. They get addicted to feeling crappy. And it's not that, again, not a judgment, because oftentimes this can be a result of how we're raised. If we're raised in environments that teach us that happiness is normal, then it's going to be really difficult to be able to overcome that. It takes work. That's what therapy is for, to heal those things. And so it's not to say that they're, enjoy being unhappy. It just is it's their comfort level. So what they need in order to communicate is A, to believe that they can actually have happiness, and B, to understand what happiness feels like, to have experiences where they feel genuinely happy, where they feel peace and connection. They also need to explore some other options. They also, in order to communicate, they're going to have to explore other options around the stories that they've told themselves about their life, about what's expected of them, what they're supposed to do. They need to explore and expand their thinking and expand their horizons. Right now, they're very small thinkers. They may be somebody who fancies themselves to be open-minded, but in many ways they think very, very small. And in order to be able to communicate, they're going to have to explore some other options and explore some other ways of seeing the world and other ways of being in the world. Again, it might be like hiring a coach, going to therapy, something along those lines, but there's definitely going to be some exploration of other things that need to take place in order for them to communicate. With the daughter of air, this is about two things. It's about not being impulsive. In order to communicate, they're going to have to get out of this energy of, like right now, they're unwilling to concede that they might have been wrong. That's pride, that's ego. They might be unwilling to admit that they caused harm, that they did something out of line. They may be in a space right now where they just want to blame you, and they may want to be like, this person just did me wrong, and this and that and the other, and if only they hadn't done this, then I wouldn't have done that. So right now, it feels like they're in this space of just kind of being petty and vindictive, perhaps. Part of why they are not communicating is because they want to continue to not give you the closure, which is petty. That's just petty. That's like, that's childish stuff, right? Grown ass adults have conversations and say, this is why I'm not continuing to communicate with you, and resolve things like adults. Blocking people and just cutting communication that's childish. That's just immature. unless that person is abusive, and then of course it's totally appropriate to do that. But if it's just like someone says no and you get mad and cut them off, that's immature. So they need to grow up a little bit. In order to communicate, they're going to have to grow up and get some really get some higher wisdom operating. It's like get into a space of right and wrong and acknowledge their misdeeds and their misdoings, and not be so impulsive around what they do. It really is about getting out of this defensive energy. This feels like a defensive energy that they're in, so they're going to have to get out of that space of feeling defensive and wanting to be petty toward you. So they're going to have to mature and do some growing up. So what do they feel that they aren't sharing? Interesting. The Father of Air, perfection, and gain. So the Father of Air is about it is a more mature energy. It's about decisions, understanding, having some strategy. So what they feel that they aren't sharing is that they do want to pursue some other insights, justice, truth. They feel like they do want to communicate clearly and have some sacred, honoring conversations. They do feel that, but they also understand that they're not ready. They're not mature enough yet to have that. So there's this part of them that really wants to have these conversations, wants to pursue justice, get things even straightened out. They really do want that. They feel that. They feel compelled to do that, but they're not doing it yet because they understand that they're not ready. So this is another twin flame confirmation card. This is perfection. They want you to know, but what they're not sharing with you is that they did feel that same perfection with you. They did feel that sense of that you felt of this is perfect. This is amazing. If things were in your connection literally felt like that, like it's perfect, it's everything you always wanted, or like that movie Fools Rush In, everything you never knew you always wanted, they felt it too. They felt that same sense of perfection. They felt that same sense of coming home and coming into this beautiful space together and creating this separate energy. They did feel that. It isn't all in your mind. It's not. If you've been wondering, did I just make that whole thing up? Did I just imagine that? Am I crazy? No, you're not. They felt it too. They felt the same type of energy. So this gain energy, this is about wanting to grow. What they're not sharing right now is that they do know that they need to gain. There's some gains that need to be made. They need to grow. There's some effort that needs to happen to create this growth, this abundance. They know that they need to work through any lack mentality or lack of clarity in order to create that gain. So this is actually very beautiful reading around what's going on with that person. So I'm going to wrap it up by pulling 3 more cards for what's in their mental space, what's in their heart space, wow, and what's in their physical space. So failure, mental space, they feel like a failure. They feel like they failed you. They feel like they failed others. They feel like they're just a failure. Like if you got into their deepest heart space and they were perfectly honest about how they see themselves, they see themselves as a failure. That might be why they're so defensive, because they feel like you saw them as a failure. You saw their weaknesses. You saw their weak points, and and they feel exposed. They feel exposed. They see, like you saw their deepest fears. You saw that they saw themselves as a failure, or you saw that they saw themselves as this weak person that can't do anything, or whatever it is that they felt about this. They in their heart, in their mind space, they feel like a failure, and they're compensating right now. What they're doing, all of the efforts that they're creating, that they're putting out in the world, is literally about masking these feelings of failure, these insecurities, the stories that they're telling themselves about themselves. The reality is that you might have seen their flaws and foibles and all of their weaknesses and whatnot and you love them anyway, but they don't believe that it's possible. Remember this love card that came up earlier? They don't believe that somebody can see them in that way and love them. They don't believe that somebody can set boundaries and say, no, this isn't going to work for me, and still love them. And so that's part of what's going on with them. In their heart space is the high priestess, you. You still are occupying space in their heart, whether you haven't talked to them in months or years even. You're still occupying space in their heart, and they may have tried to like kick you out, but they just can't shake you, like that scene in Brokeback Mountain. Why can't I, I wish I could quit you. That's how they are. That's how their heart is feeling. But their heart is just not letting go. Their heart is just not going to let you out of that space, because that's where it's like their heart is like, but this is where this person belongs. And so we're going to keep holding on to that. That isn't to say definitely for you not to move on with your life. I don't ever want anybody to feel like, oh, well, I'm still in that person's heart space, so I'm going to keep waiting. No, don't do that. Go live your life. Go live a badass, exciting, fulfilling life. And, if they ever decide to come back around at that point, then you make the decision about what you're going to do. But don't live your life on pause, waiting for someone that has to work out their own shit in order to come back and be a healthy connection. So in their physical space, they're working through some of these ideas, these traditional ideas that they've been steeped in. So this can be, they may be working on out ideas about religion, about spirituality. Maybe they were part of a certain type of religion, and now they're kind of thinking about, do I really want to be in that space? Do I really want to be in these traditional kinds of environments? This could be working out whether or not they want to have a traditional kind of relationship. I shared a post the other day about ethical non-monogamy on my personal Facebook page. It was very interesting because I got a ton of private messages afterwards from people that were like, thank you for articulating this, because I've been wondering about this, and I was wondering if I was crazy or if I was the only person that felt this way. And so I feel like they may be in a space of kind of grappling with, are these social conventions, are these things that I have always bought into actually for me, or do I need to create different ways of experiencing the world? That's not to say that they want to have open relationships. Like, that's not my thing, personally, but I don't have anything against it either. And so I think that there's this expansiveness that's happening. Remember the exploration card that came through earlier? It's like they're having to expand and explore whether or not the traditional things that they have told themselves that they wanted about themselves or for their lives is actually what they want. Maybe they don't want to actually be legally married. Maybe they don't actually want to be a part of this religious belief anymore. Maybe they're trying to expand their thinking that they don't have to be bound by certain conventions. And so it's something that they're really mentally thinking about. Like, are the beliefs that I've been living my life by my beliefs, or are they social beliefs or parental beliefs or outside beliefs that I just bought into because that was what I was taught? So a lot of growth happening for them, a lot of really interesting energies that are happening for them, needing to really mature and grow. And so overall, I feel like it's a positive reading. I feel like they're definitely in some space that they need to grow, and that they are recognizing that, at least on a spiritual level. So that's really great. So that's the reading. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. If you'd like a private reading, all of the information on how to do that is in the description box below. So I hope you're all having a great day. Take care. Bye.